Being fired is different to being made redundant. Redundancy says the company changed. Being fired says you did something wrong, or you weren't good enough, or both. And that story, the one your brain tells you the moment it happens, that's the thing we need to talk about. Because here's what the research shows. The shame that comes with being fired doesn't just hurt. And if you don't address it directly, it will follow you into every room you walk into next. Job interview, new team, new manager, it's there. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 things. First, how to separate your capability from the role that ended so you stop carrying someone else's decision as evidence about your worth. Second, how to control the story. What you say, how you say it, and why getting this wrong costs you more than the firing itself. And third, why grief is the most underrated part of this process and how moving through it probably is the fastest route back to confidence. The role ended. Your capability didn't. I know that might feel like something people just say, a motivational poster, something people tell you when they don't know what else to say. But I won't show you why it's actually proverbially true. When someone is fired, the brain does something very specific. It goes looking for evidence that this was inevitable, that it was always coming, that somehow deep down you knew you weren't good enough. Psychologists call this attribution. We attribute the event to something about ourselves rather than about the circumstances. And once that story takes hold, it colors everything. How we present ourselves, how we interview, how we walk into a room. Research on executive termination shows that credibility damage after being fired depends less on what happened and far more on the response. The narrative you build in the weeks that follows matter more than the event itself. So the question isn't what did I do wrong? That's a conversation for later, with more perspective. The question right now is what can I do with what I've got? And the answer is more than you think. Here's an exercise I want you to do. Take a piece of paper and draw a line down in the middle. On the left side, write things that ended with the job. On the right side, write things that came with it. The left side might have the salary, the title, the team, the particular project, maybe the office you liked, the routine you'd built. The right side, that's everything else. Your ability to solve problems, your communication skills, the relationships you built over years that nobody can unbuild, the things you learned, every difficult situation, every project that went wrong and then right, every time you figured something out under pressure. Look at the right side. The page didn't get smaller when you got fired. Not one word on it changed. That is your capability, and it came with you. The role was a context for your capability, not the source of it. The context changed, the capability didn't. If this is landing, hit like. That one tab helps this find the people sitting in their own car park after getting fired right now. What you say about being fired and how you say it is one of the most important confidence decisions you'll make in the next 6 months. And most people get it wrong in 1 or 2 ways. Mistake 1, silence. They say nothing, change the subject, get visibly uncomfortable, which signals to everyone in the room that there's something to be ashamed of. And shame, once someone else senses it, becomes the story. Mistake 2, over-explanation. They give a 10-minute defense on what happened, blame the manager, blame the culture, blame the timing, which signals something different but equally damaging. It signals that they haven't processed it, that they're still in it. Research on how leaders recover after termination is clear. Calm acknowledgement of transition conveys maturity. Over-explanation signals insecurity. And silence invites speculation. So what does the right answer look like? Let me give you a framework that works in interviews, at networking events, and in any conversation where someone asks, what happened? The framework has 3 parts. Acknowledge, pivot, project. Acknowledge, 1 sentence. No more. I was let go from my last role. Or that chapter ended. You're not hiding it, you're not dramatizing it. 1 sentence. Pivot. immediately move to what you learned or what you choose to do with the experience. It gave me a chance to reflect on what I actually want to build next. Or it accelerated a decision I'd been thinking about for a while. You're not lying. You're choosing which true thing to say. You're choosing which true thing to say. Project. End on where you're heading. What are you excited about? What problem you want to solve? What kind of team or environment you're looking for? Forward motion. The interviewer's last impression on your answer should be about the future, not the past. Acknowledge, pivot, project. Practice it until it feels like breathing, because when confidence is low, rehearsed clarity is the next best thing. Your story is yours to tell. The firing is a fact. The meaning you give it is a choice. And every time you tell it calmly and with forward motion, you take a little bit more of that meaning back. Here's something that very few people will tell you after you've been fired. You are allowed to grieve. Not just the job, the version of yourself that existed in that job, the future you'd planned, the person you were on the way to becoming in that context. Our culture around job loss, especially being fired, tends to push people straight into action. Update the CV, hit LinkedIn, network, apply, move, keep moving. And action is important. But if you skip the grief, it doesn't disappear. It just resurfaces later. As bitterness in an interview, as hesitation when a great opportunity appears, as a low hum and anger that you can't quite explain. Dr. Kübler-Ross' grief model, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, applies to job loss just as it applies to any significant loss. And research shows these stages don't follow a neat order. You might feel acceptance on Tuesday and be back to anger by Thursday. That is not failure of resilience. That is the process. So the question is, how do you grieve in a way that moves you forward rather than keeping you stuck? Here's what actually works. First move. Name the stage you're in. Literally say it out loud or write it down. Right now I'm in anger. Right now I'm bargaining. I keep replaying what I could have said differently. Naming a stage creates distance from it. You are not anger. You're someone who's currently experiencing anger. That gap, tiny as it sounds, is where the power lives. Second move. Give grief a container. Set a specific time each day, 20 minutes, maybe 30, where you let yourself feel whatever is there. Write it, walk it, talk it out. But when the time is up, close that container. The rest of the day is for action. This is not suppression, it's structure. And structure is confidence when everything else feels formless. Third move, separate the lesson from the verdict. Yes, look at what happened. Yes, be honest about what you would do differently. That's the lesson. But refuse to let that conversation become a verdict on your worth. A lesson says, I learned something. A verdict says, I am something. One makes you better, the other just makes you smaller. Grief, when you work with it, is not the enemy of confidence. It's the path to it. Because on the other side of genuine grief is genuine clarity. And clarity about who you are, what you want, and what you are capable of is the foundation that confidence is built on. Being fired is one of the most personal professional experience a person can have. And it hits different to redundancy. It hits different to layoff. And it deserves to be treated differently. So let's recap. The role ended. Your capability didn't. Do the 2-column exercise and prove it to yourself on paper. Control the story. Acknowledge, pivot, project. 1 sentence back, then face forward. And grief is real. Name the stage. Give it a container. Separate the lesson from the verdict. If this video reached you at the moment, share it with someone who needs it, or just save it for the day when the inner critic gets louder again. Like the video, subscribe if you want part 3. The one covers confidence after a layoff. And there are some more surprising differences in how that specific experience affects you that I think you'll find useful. And drop a comment. Same question as always, one word. How did you feel the day after you were fired? I read every single one.